I do. We have one other kind of big news, which I'm going to pass the microphone on to Bill to share, that will connect some of our past with something that he found. Bill.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, 2 weeks from today is Memorial Day, as you all may realize. And 2 years ago, Memorial Day, was when AOI dedicated the wayside that we had put together at 16th and Alaska Avenue for this DC World War I 16th Street Tree Memorial. Walter's going to bring that slide up in just a second. That's Kim's. Here we go. There you are. So this wayside commemorated the 530 DC World War I veterans that perished one way or the other in World War I. And it was made possible, the majority of the funds came from AOI, but the state regent of the DAR for DC contributed to it, and DC Water, gift in kind, contributed their space. So this wayside is on the wall of DC Water, and it lists the five. At the time, when it was dedicated in 1920, it lists the 507 names of the fallen that were selected at the time, and a map as to where all of these memorials were located along a 2-mile stretch of 16th Street commemorating these people. Now, this is separate from the DC War Memorial down on the mall, okay? And as I was discussing with Barbara Bates, we have these huge spreadsheets trying to reconcile and sort everything. There are people on one memorial that are not on the other, and vice versa, and we attribute that to the fact that when the DC War Memorial was done in 1932, that they'd had another 10 years to vet some of these people and say, well, they didn't really participate or whatever, so they may not be included among the 499. 2 years after the 507 were dedicated, another 23 were added. So Walter, can you click ahead to my next slide? I don't have the, do I? Yeah. Oh, here it is. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, so there are the names, there's the map. So as of today, and as we've accumulated over the years, there are only 3 known locations of the, we call them the stumps, of where these original copper medallions were placed along 16th Street. This is what you see if you go to one of those locations, okay? It was just a 4-inch square concrete pillar with a copper shield on it with the name and branch of service for each of these 530 people. Originally 507, 23 added later. There is only one existing one until recently, and that is for John Forsyth Diggs, and this is in Council Chair Phil Mendelson's office. John Kelly wrote about this a number of years ago, that somebody had found this in their backyard, and in his article he more or less said, well, if you don't want to be accused of harboring, having stolen property, you should, donate this someplace. In so many words, I think that was sort of off the record. So anyhow, John Briggs's ended up, is it Briggs or Diggs? Diggs ended up in Phil Mendelson's office, and this gives you sort of an idea. Oh, so anyhow, it's on the concrete plinth in his office. And all this is on our website, so you can track this down. So this is where it sort of gets interesting. So earlier this year, we get an email from somebody saying, my father-in-law used to live along 16th Street, and he happens to have this in his collection. Well, this is for Daniel Bensinger, U.S. Army. And if you do the research on it, Daniel Bensinger was 27 when he died in World War I, and his family had an automotive repair and truck repair place in D.C. I've actually reached out and contacted his descendants. He didn't have any progeny, but he had a brother who had, and his third cousin, X number of times removed, lives in Colorado. And we've been back in touch over this because, and this is where it gets interesting. So remember I said that there were 23 added in 1922? We don't know the names of any of those 23. None of them. Barbara has researched it. We think American Forests might have it. The newspaper account of February 6, 1922 says 23 more names to be added to the DC War Memorial, and then it doesn't list their names. It's like, so on our big spreadsheet, we have a number of World War I veterans that are on one, not the other, and some that aren't on either. And you'd think, oh, I'll go into Excel and I'll sort through this, and bingo, these 23 will pop out. Bensinger wasn't even on any of those lists. So somewhere, along with Daniel Bensinger, are 22 other people who we don't have the names for, even though their memorials were dedicated in 1922. So we need to find out these other 22 people in addition to Daniel Bensinger. So in a moment of, I don't know, craziness, I'm Googling and eBaying and doing all kinds of stuff a couple weeks ago, and I find this memorial tree, World War I, 1917, 1918, William P. Slater, U.S. Coast Guard. And he was on our list. He was number 409, and his memorial was on 16th Street at, between Decatur and Blagden, opposite Emerson Street. He's listed as Slattery, William Patrick, boy, first class, U.S. Coast Guard, mother, Mrs. Margaret McLean, 836 5th Street Northeast, Washington, D.C., USS Gresham, escorted vehicle, died at Naval Hospital, Norfolk, Virginia, respiratory disease, October 5th, 1918. So we've got the plaque or the shield in Phil Mendelssohn's office. We've got the one that's out there, the Bensinger one that's floating around out there, and the father-in-law who's moved 500 miles away that we're sort of trying to politely convince to donate to the DC archives. And, of course, going on eBay, I get the third one. So I'll pass this around and everybody can look at it. So we're hoping, probably beyond hope, that somehow magically, and the best bet is if American Forests has this list of the 23 that were added, that we'd be able to go ahead and populate. I mean, the names may be on our list, but at least we could categorize them and say, 508. I've just gone ahead and added Bensinger in randomly as number 508. We don't know whether it was an A or a B before him or not, but I've just, used some executive, prerogative and made him 508. What we need is 509 through 530 to complete the mystery. So I thought that would be appropriate, maybe put on certain thinking caps or check our website. Barbara has done such an excellent job with the 10 women on the DC memorials, the African-American men on the DC memorials, because on these, both memorials, there's no indication as to gender, rank, ethnicity, or anything. I mean, they're just names. So we've accumulated that over time and have that in our spreadsheet, which is on the website if you want to research it further. So another mystery for us to work on. Thank you.
So excited. I thought these shields, when we kept seeing the pictures of it, I thought these shields were like huge on a tree. So when you pass around and you see it and it's so tiny, it's amazing that these survived at all, that are out there. So if you all happen to be on eBay and up late one night and can't sleep, let us know if you find anything. Keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for more.
I didn't mention it.